a First Alert Weather Special. Sponsored by the Basement Doctor and Klaus Roofing Systems of Cincinnati.
Welcome to the Fox 19 First Alert Weather Special. Have you heard there are more tornadoes this year than usual? Do you know why?
Well, the answer may be a little complicated, but that's science for you.
According to the tornado database that goes back to 1950, the preliminary numbers for 2024 say that this is the most tornadoes reported in Ohio. We're only 5 months into the year. But that's just one of the numbers to consider when we take a look at this historic season. To understand what's happening now, let's talk about the historic tornado outbreak. This year, we marked the 50th anniversary of the Sailor Park tornado. That tornado was an F5 and one of 148 tornadoes between April 3rd and 4th, 1974. That outbreak of tornadoes across 13 states included 335 deaths, more than 6,000 injuries, and hundreds of millions of dollars in damage. This was the same system that impacted Xenia. That tornado remains among the top 10 costliest U.S. tornadoes on record. That was the last F5 or EF5 tornado recorded in Ohio. 50 years ago, technology was very different. Detecting tornadoes using radar was very difficult. Now we can confirm a tornado is on the ground using advanced technology. Doppler radar has come a long way so that we can see rotation in a storm or even debris being lofted into the air from a tornado. That's exactly what happened on May 7th this year during the tornado outbreak in the tri-state.
If you can go to debris detection in Warren County and look just northeast of Morrow, I looked on this software here and we have what definitely looks like the signature of debris being lofted by a tornado, and it also happens to coincide.
This says observed. So this is the Morrow one. So a tornado-producing storm was located near Morrow, moving northeast at 25 miles per hour. Radar shows tornado debris in the air. Okay. This is exactly what Steve was talking about.
Sure enough, the next day, the National Weather Service confirmed several tornadoes in Warren County, including this tornado Steve pointed out in Morrow. That's just one of the reasons more tornadoes are being recorded now, especially here in the tri-state. The preliminary numbers from the Storm Prediction Center say as of mid-May, Ohio reported 65 tornadoes. That includes all of the tornadoes on May 7th. Last year, Ohio had 56 for the entire year. The past 10 years, the average is about 31. The lowest number was in 2015 when 7 tornadoes were reported for the entire year, and the most will be this year. So why is 2024 so active when it comes to tornadoes? There could be a few reasons. First of all, we were in an El Nino until earlier this year. An El Nino pattern can help to produce conditions conducive to tornado development. There could also be more people reporting tornadoes. Everyone has a smartphone these days, and it's easy to take a picture or video of a tornado that may have otherwise gone unreported. Climate change can also be a factor. The warmer, more moist air can help to produce more thunderstorms, and those thunderstorms can lead to tornadic conditions. So the bottom line, there are more tornadoes reported now than usual. But it doesn't mean that trend will continue. Each year, each month, and each storm can be different.
When you think of a tornado, what comes to mind? What does it look like to you? Well, not all tornadoes are the same. In fact, there are several different types of tornadoes, and they vary in shape, in size, and the degree of destruction that they may bring along their paths. We'll begin with one that isn't as common in the tri-state and are generally the largest and most destructive. We're talking about here a wedge tornado. Wedge tornadoes are distinctively wide and formed from supercell thunderstorms. Supercell thunderstorms can also bring other types of tornadoes, which are more common in the Ohio Valley. You have the classic stovepipe tornado that is often depicted in art, media, or what we most often think of when someone talks about a tornado. There's also the needle tornado, which has a large funnel near the cloud base, but gets smaller between the clouds and the surface. Rope tornadoes occur when the storm severs the warm air necessary to sustain the twister from the downdraft behind the storm. Though they don't occur often around here, elephant trunks look like the name implies and typically occur in the plains. Then there are gustnadoes, which are referred to as little spin-ups that develop along the gust of a storm system. And one we can't leave out considering how rare it is. You can have twin tornadoes in a powerful enough system. This occurred in northern Indiana during the 1965 Palm Sunday tornado outbreak. There are other types of tornadoes not mentioned here, but regardless of what they look like, they can bring devastation, destruction, and pain to those who live through them.
And at the time, I just stood there looking at it, just demolition everywhere around us.
I can remember that like it was yesterday. You don't forget something like that.
And I was 8 years old, not quite 9. I don't think we knew what was happening at that time.
Annette Bryant was in school when the tornado hit her home.
We tried to drive home. There were telephone wires and electric wires down, and she pulled over and we walked the rest of the way. And the closer we got to home, the more chaos and chaotic. The buildings were all down. We finally got to our house, and the only thing was standing was the kitchen and the bathroom. And I had a pet rabbit, and my dad had found it and was able to catch it and put it in my arms.
A photo that carries so many emotions of a little girl who lost everything.
As a child, if the sky got a little bit dark, I literally would run and home and hide any way I can. If I was at school, I was just terrified.
It just chipped that pole all out.
Greg was also in school that day.
I was 7 years old in the 2nd grade. The middle school's at the bottom of this hill. One of the big twin trees out back came right through our window. And after that, it was total chaos. My cousin Sue, she come and grabbed me because she was in the upper classes. She come and grabbed me, and out the door we ran. And when they got back to their house, damage was widespread. I picked up toys, different things that was scattered all over, and I'm thinking this belonged to somebody.
This tornado was one of several tornadoes that hit the region, including the F5 tornado that hit Gallipolis and Wheelersburg, as well as another F4 that hit Glen Estee, Newtonsville, and Blanchester. But this tornado was believed to have been mostly on the ground for more than 70 miles. A canceled check from Falmouth was even found all the way in Ross County. In total, more than 350 injuries occurred from this tornado alone, along with at least 6 fatalities from a tornado that produced estimated winds greater than 200 miles per hour.
I've gotten a little more comfortable in the past 4 or 5 years, but I still have a major amount of anxiety when I see storms coming.
With today's technology and you guys out there doing your best to give us as much warning as you can, it has saved a lot of lives.
And though other disasters struck Falmouth with floods and severe weather, the city has rebuilt each time, preserving faith in the community.
It gives us the strength, and with our faith, we get to the point to where, you know, like I said, we get stronger with each and every issue that comes our way.
Whether it's a hurricane, tornado, or wildfire, severe weather can turn your life upside down. And scammers will sometimes cash in on a person's misery by trying to steal a storm survivor's personal information. Tonight, we're hearing from experts about how to protect your information and avoid getting scammed when disaster strikes. No matter where you live in the country, one thing is for sure, the weather forecast can change quickly. It's why the Better Business Bureau is sending an alert to consumers to be mindful of scammers looking to cash in on natural disasters.
A lot of times we'll hear about what's called storm chasers, and that's shady type construction companies that will show up to an area and ask you to repair your home. You might be distressed in an emergency situation. You might need that repair right away.
Melanie McGovern with the BBB says that they do knock on your door. Don't feel pressure to give them anything in that moment.
The best thing you can do is to pause, take their business card, tell them you want to check them out with the BBB, do a little more research. Reputable construction companies and contractors will give you the time to do that.
McGovern says oftentimes tragedy brings out the best in people. Strangers will want to help people in need. But McGovern also says before you donate any money, do your homework on different charities and organizations.
Always work with a charity that has the ability to get to the affected area. If it's something that's local and it's a local charity that you know that has been established, that has been around for a while, any kind of crowdfunding you need to look into to make sure that it is on the up and up. Donate only to people that you know. A lot of people will mimic being either a victim or knowing a victim. So you want to make sure that you understand who it's going to, where it's going, and how much of that dollar is actually going toward the cause.
The FTC says be skeptical of anyone promising immediate cleanup or repairs. Also know that FEMA doesn't charge application fees. If someone wants to help you qualify for FEMA funds, it's a scam. And if you have any questions about who to contact after a storm, call your homeowner's insurance ahead of time. Ask them what their procedure is if something should happen to your property. Natural disasters do happen unexpectedly, but preparing yourself ahead of time is the best thing you can do to protect your family and your money.
Welcome back to Fox 19's Ahead of the Storm First Alert Weather Special. Now, when weather strikes, you want to be the first in the know, and that's why the Fox 19 First Alert Weather Team works with the National Weather Service to issue watches and warnings.
We have a partnership that enables all of us to achieve our mission, which is to keep our residents, in this case, the Cincinnati area, as safe as possible, as alert to the threat of severe weather as possible, and as safe from those threats as they can be. So that partnership is critical for getting the word out to as many people as we possibly can.
And when warnings are issued, we get the word out.
There's an outflow boundary here moving into Highland County, south of Clinton County as well. What could happen here? This is what we saw yesterday. That could actually interact with these storms that are moving in from the west, and we could see some even stronger storms.
That storm produced the Goshen tornado. But in the tri-state, we often see tornadoes spawn from a different setup.
What we get more of in the Ohio Valley are what you would refer to as quasi-linear systems, QLCS. A lot of the times they happen at night, so they're harder to see on radar. They tend to be shorter lived, but they can produce in a local area very significant damage well into the EF2 range.
And we track storms on radar, which the Fox 19 Now viewing area has several to view from.
Through the early part of the 2000s, we got a network of radars that the FAA distributed around major airports. We were fortunate those radars went in at Cincinnati, Dayton, and Columbus airports.
And all of the radar towers in the region give us a better view of what is happening in the atmosphere.
With Doppler radar, we're able to see not just where storms are, how they're moving. We can see air motions inside the storms, which is tremendous for seeing things like powerful downburst and gust fronts and circulations associated with tornadoes.
But the First Alert Weather Team and NWS together watch radar and communicate before warnings are issued.
All radar does is detect, so it can show us where they are right now and the direction they're moving. We really need the meteorologists to be anticipating and understanding the environment to give us those extra minutes to share real-time storm information.
Doppler radar can see circulation in storms as they happen, as supercells or even tornadoes develop, so we can get the warning out to you. But when it comes to detecting tornadoes, there's more. And the chief tells us how important rotation is with tornadic development.
Just about a year before Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon, meteorologists still hadn't explained where all the rotation comes from a big tornado like this F4 in Carroll County, Kentucky in 1992, or, of course, the Sailor Park tornado shown here crossing through Delhi in 1974. Then a guy named Stanley Barnes said, you know, maybe we shouldn't look at the storm, but look outside the storm. Winds in the atmosphere are typically faster the higher you go. Because the top of the square is pushed faster than the lower part, the square rotates as it moves downwind. In the storm environment, we can think of rotating tubes of air pulled into the storm from a wide area. This concentrates the rotation. The thunderstorm updraft then tilts it to the vertical and stretches it, causing the rotation rate to increase, and this leads to a tornado. So to summarize it, shear outside the storm creates rotation. That rotation is pulled into the storm and concentrated. The updraft tilts it to the vertical. The updraft then stretches it, and just like the ice skater, the spin is faster and faster and faster, and then you get a tornado. So really, all we have to do to forecast the chance of tornadoes is be able to forecast the winds outside the storm, and that's pretty easy.
This spring marks the 25th anniversary of a deadly tornado that tore through Montgomery and Blue Ash in 1999. A couple was killed in their home and 2 drivers were killed on the road. There were 200 homes destroyed and another 400 damaged. I spoke with a woman who says even during that tragedy, she has a happy story amidst that deadly storm 25 years later. Denise Gieske just celebrated her daughter's 25th birthday Monday. Emily Gieske was born hours before a deadly tornado tore through Hamilton County in the pre-dawn hours of April 9th, 1999.
We put our daughter Emily in the nursery for the night, and my husband and I were asleep in our room, and then we were woke up in the middle of the night by a nurse telling us that we had to get into the hallway because a tornado was in the area.
This is the path of the F4 tornado. It caused damage in Blue Ash, Montgomery, and Loveland. Gieske is right when she says the tornado was in the area. It was about a mile from Bethesda North Hospital, where she had given birth less than 12 hours before tragedy struck the town. Emily wasn't the only baby in the nursery that morning.
You saw this caravan of baby beds coming from the nursery, and they just passed out the babies, and we sat in the hall and waited until we could go back into our room.
Once back in the room, there was no power. The only thing that worked on the backup generator was the button to call the nurse. That meant no TV, and social media was non-existent. The hospital staff had to stay because the incoming staff couldn't get to Bethesda North because of debris and impassable roads.
The pediatrician came on the 9th to her room, and he looked at us really crazy because my husband had asked, what's it look like outside? And I don't think he realized we couldn't watch any television. We had no idea because he looked at us so crazily, and he was like, it's like a bomb went off outside.
Gieske says she was just thankful nobody at the hospital was hurt. Ironically, she says it seems each year on Emily's birthday, there is some sort of storm or a solar eclipse. One year on Emily's birthday, a thunderstorm started during the party, and parents were calling worried about their kids.
We have sugar in a basement. Everybody will be fine. So, I mean, it doesn't, the tornadoes, I'm sure, the destruction, everything, I know they're serious, but for her coming at the time, and it's just a happy moment for me. Usually baby number 2 doesn't have anything exciting in their baby book, and I said this is something that her big brother doesn't have.
It's safe to say that the Gieske family will never forget the April 9th, 1999 tornadoes. Meteorologist Ashley Smith, Fox 19 Now.
Well, so far the tornado season in Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana has been very busy. For a while, Ohio led the nation, and you can see the numbers here. The interesting thing about this is El Nino winters are typically followed by springs with fewer tornadoes, unless the El Nino is very strong. And this one was a strong one because take a look at this. For meteorological winter, the average temperature was 4.8 degrees warmer than normal, and that is a lot in meteorological terms. It's a lot of heat. So warm winters mean more heat energy available to spawn spring storms. You don't have to melt the snow, you don't have to warm the soil and everything else in the environment, so that heat is available for storms to become stronger and more numerous. So will the trend of tornado occurrence continue? It's not likely because there are more factors than just El Nino that determine how many tornadoes touch down in any one area. The best way you can stay safe during severe weather is to use the First Alert Weather app. If you're busy and out and about, the First Alert Weather app will let you know of approaching severe weather with an audible alert specific to your location.
This has been Ahead of the Storm, a First Alert weather special. Sponsored by the Basement Doctor and Klaus Roofing Systems of Cincinnati.